Probably don't need it, do we?
I think they have to have it for 2.
All right.
Anyone want to kick us off? Go down. Can't see their hands.
Sorry.
They were faster than me.
Josh, obviously an incredible day's cricket, but could we just get your and your teammates' initial reaction to that England declaration? Was it pretty shocked?
No, not really. I think, once Joe got his 100, and I think they were, played a few shots, so sort of sensed it was coming. That's sort of the way they're playing the cricket at the moment. So, the first day was probably as I expected, pretty much. The wicket was not a great deal in it. It was very, very slow. Not much sideways movement or swing or anything. So, 390 and we're none for, so pretty even, I'd say.
And as a bowler, presumably you're pretty pleased you don't have to strap them on, you get off a few overs early tonight. It's good news for you, right?
Very pleased. Very pleased.
Yeah. Just sort of general question really. What was the kind of what's the mood in the dressing room after a day? Where you sort of spend a day out in the field and you get a few overs in at the end. What's the kind of what was the mood after the day's playing? How do you kind of feel the first day of the series has gone?
Yeah, I think if you're none down, you're pretty happy. Obviously, that's the key to try and get a few overs and try and sneak one in. So to be none down, that's first of all a tick. And I think from the bowling front, things went pretty well. Obviously, there's things would change looking back, and we'll probably dig into that more tomorrow at some stage. But it's a sort of a different way of going about it. We had different fields at different stages, and some worked, some probably didn't. It's aggressive cricket, and it's entertaining. And certainly from my point of view, as we mentioned before, off the field as a bowling group, so that's one tick. It's exciting, yeah.
Josh, just on those fields, how much input did you guys as the bowlers have going into the game? And do you think they worked? England still scored at 5 and over today.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think you got to try and look at probably the end score. So 8 for just under 400, or basically all out for under 400. So you take that on that wicket for sure, whether it takes 80 overs or 160. So it's the same score. We've got to start to sort of look at things a little bit differently, I guess, and not so much look at strike rates and economies and things like that. So it's just about wickets and the score, and if we can keep it as simple as that, I think that'll go a long way to wrapping our heads around the sort of new Ashes.
And you mentioned before that some of the sorry.
Right, it's all right. Bearing in mind you said it was entertaining for the crowd, but just the pace that it's at, is it different to you knew what was coming, but then in experiencing it, is it a little bit discombobulating when you're on the field, and is it actually fun?
I'd say it's a challenge, definitely. It's a good fun challenge to have. It's good to play a different brand of cricket. Although I don't think we got dragged into it as much as we could have if things went really south. But I thought we held our guns pretty well. It wasn't outrageous stroke play. Like there was a little bit there at the end there off Gaza for Rudy, but a batter on 100 plus usually plays shots like that anyway with the tail. So we're sort of used to that stuff. Zach probably played a couple of little rash shots, but nothing out of the box that we haven't seen in white ball cricket. So I think it's just from a bowling, I guess, group point of view, it's about how the innings actually looks. There's a lot more ones probably, but if we shut down the boundaries, then that score doesn't really go through the roof at 7s and 8s and things like that. So we can keep it at 5 and over and keep taking wickets throughout the day. That somewhat keeps them in check, I guess.
You mentioned before that you thought some tactics did work, some didn't. A lot of people were surprised, for example, to have a deep point out and Nathan Lyon to have 4 guys out on the fence when he starts. What did you think tactically did work today?
I think probably just the line we bowled. In England, you're probably thinking to keep on that 4th and 5th stump and keep, looking for the outside edge, when the wicket probably dictated not that. So we had to change our game plan, I guess, a fair bit and come straighter, and we probably were just in between, bowling straight and really setting that field and staying there and still bowling that line length channel. So it's just about jumping into that and really going all in on that, I think, which we probably should have a little bit earlier and really stuck to it for longer. But apart from that, I think the fields were good. It's good to try a few things and see what works and what doesn't. And yeah, we'll have a chat, as I said, and go from there.
Was it a ploy not to go to the short ball as little as you did? It seemed like there wasn't much of it. Was that due to the pace of the pitch? Or?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it wasn't really didn't really felt like it played a part. It was so slow. Be interesting to see how it keeps going over the next few days. But yeah, just nothing there.
Josh, I was going to ask you about the pitch. How different is that to other pitches you played Ashes tests on in England, and what would you compare it to? What's it more similar to?
Yeah, I think sometimes you can come across maybe a day 4 or 5 wicket maybe being like that here in England if it's dry and hasn't been much rain about. But yeah, it's I don't know. The outside edge didn't feel in play much at all after that new ball. So you sort of comparing it to the subcontinent a little bit. Or maybe a Sydney wicket or something like that, where the plans do change throughout the day and you go straighter and you're looking for the LBs and bowls and things like that. So, yeah, not your typical wicket, but both teams have to bowl on it, so we'll see how it goes.
Josh, do you feel as if, obviously England are playing such a different style of cricket to what you guys have played against before. Over the course of a 5-match series, do you feel like you guys have more to learn and it gets easier for you as the series goes on in terms of knowing what tactics you go to, and it's probably in some ways an advantage for you guys that it is over such a long series?
Yes and no. I think the wicket still plays a huge part in what type of cricket you play. If we come out there and it's nipping around corners and swinging and whatnot, then you keep your 3 slips and gully in all day, and you probably still have those fielders out, stop the boundaries, and still the wickets still look the same. But on that wicket, we just had to change it up and, as I said, go straighter. And yeah, I don't know. I think we'll definitely learn throughout the series. I think we'll still stick to our guns and what we've been doing the last 2 years. No doubt, it's obviously working and has worked. So as best we can, we'll stick to that.
One down here, a couple over here, or we'll finish up next.
Josh, you mentioned the pitch staying quite low. Do you think it was a pitch that's hard to take wickets on, and you really were made to work for them?
Yeah, I think probably attacking batting probably brings in a few more modes of dismissal, if that makes sense. I think if you sort of just bat normal, or even if you have to shut up shop towards the end of the game for a draw potentially, then it's going to be hard work to get wickets. I think a bit of the stroke play, we saw a few stumpings, things like that. So if batters play normally, I think it's going to be quite hard to get the 20 wickets.
Josh, is it hard internally at all are you ever fighting against putting a deep point out in your first over and that sort of thing? Is there any part of you that's, as a fast bowler, has been so successful fighting against it?
No, we sort of talked, between the World Test Championship and this game, we caught up a few times as a bowling group with the coaches, and there's been a lot of detail gone into the plans, and mostly from the coaches and the analysts, to be honest, just watching England closely the last 18 months. I know the bowlers don't really watch, a lot apart from the games we're involved in. So we learned probably a lot on, what the coaches have said and where all the stats say the boundaries are scored, modes of dismissal, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, as I said, we'll keep learning, but it's a good start.
Josh, you mentioned a little bit earlier that in the face of when the scoreboard's flowing or the strike rates are up, that it's important to kind of stick to your game plan. Is it a tough thing as a player to try and do in that kind of situation?
Yeah, I think so. It probably helps if a lot of the bowlers these days have played white ball cricket and they're sort of used to these sort of shots. Rudy, the one over slips and different things. So. But it's hard as you got a red ball in your hand, you got whites on, you think, if I bowl the top of off, it should be respected. But I think those days are long gone, no matter who you're playing, really. We know India went at a fair clip last week as well. So, yeah, we're used to seeing that sort of stuff, and it's just about almost taking the batter out of it and just keep bashing away.
Josh, you said you didn't get dragged into it as much as you could have at the start. That first hour or so, it sort of felt like, obviously, putting the fielders out and so on. How do you just sum that up as the starting point of the series?
Yeah, I think it was fine. We're sort of, as I mentioned, it's just about getting our heads around it as a bowling group. That ones are fine. Got the fielders out from ball one almost, and that's sort of how we're going to go about it. The modes of dismissal are still very similar, although probably not on this wicket. It's not a good example, but throughout the series, I think they'll still stay the same. So it's just about the visual, I guess, the optics from a bowling group to not get dragged into necessarily bowling to your field.
Josh, just in terms of the selection, how late did you find out, given Pat obviously kept it pretty close to his chest until yesterday at least?
Yeah, I knew. I think it was yesterday or even the day before. It was. It's good to be back, and I guess not having to bowl too many in the first day. 15 overs is probably perfect. Nice hit out and get some miles in the legs, and it's exciting to be back.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.
You might be Russian, son.